Hello maths fans, welcome to Tom Rock's Maths Does Countdown. This is the third and unfortunately the final video in the series where I will be going through all 20 number rounds from my final week on the show as I've been temporarily covering for Rachel Riley. You should know the rules by now, but if not, here's a very quick recap. You have 30 seconds to make a 3-digit total using 6 randomly selected numbers. These contain between 0 to 4 large numbers from 25, 50, 75 and 100, and the rest come from the small pile which are numbered 1 through to 10. To reach the target, you can only use the basic operations of plus, minus, multiply and divide, and each number can only be used once. Another 20 rounds to get through at 4 per show Monday to Friday, so let's get to it. First up on Monday, we have 50, 10, and then another 4 small, which are 6, 2, 3, 4, and the target that we're aiming for is 533. Lovely one to start the week. We're going to do 50 plus 3 to get 53. The 10 is crying out to be used as a multiplying factor, so we'll do that to get 530. Now, possibly might be a little worried that we've already used the 3, and we want to, of course, add on that final 3, but we've got a 6 and a 2, which we haven't used, so 6 divided by 2 gives us that 3. Add those two together for 533. Monday round 2 was a little bit harder. So we again have one large, this time it's 25, and then we've got 5 smalls of 2, 7, 2, 10 and 9, and our target is 608. I'll give you 30 seconds to figure it out. Now this one is a little bit trickier, as the standard approach perhaps of using split multiplication and using the 25 to get close. It possibly could work that way, but I don't think it is at all obvious how to get there from that method. So one of the other methods you might try, and in particular when you have such an even looking number, is to keep dividing through by 2 and see how many factors of 2 you can pull out, and then sort of see what remains. So let's try that approach. So if we keep dividing by 2, we're going to get 304, then we're going to get 152, then we're going to get 76, then we're going to get 38, and then we're going to get 19. Now we can't go any further with the 2's, so let's count how many we have. So we've got 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. So this tells us that to get 608 is 19 times 32. Now you may potentially have spotted that 32 times 20 would get us close. That would take us up to 640, of course. And that maybe was a way into the problem. But thinking about it a little bit more logically, the way I eventually did this at least, was to keep dividing through by 2 and realize I have this 32 and a 19. Because once you know 19 times 32 gives you the 608, the problem now is a lot easier. So we're going to use the 25 and the 7 to get the 32. So 25 plus 7 gives us the 32. And now we realize 10 plus 9 gives us the 19. And then it's a case, multiply them together, which we already know will give us the 608. Another one large for Monday round 3, this time starting with the 100, and then we've got 3, 2, 5, 4, 1, and our target is 256. Now this one looks easier than I think at least it actually is. because you don't want to use the 100. So it's very tempting to do 100 times 2 or 100 times 3 and try and make it work. And you may indeed find a method using that works. But the easier way to do it, and again, the way I've done it, is to actually take the 100, divide by 2 to get 50, and then, of course, use the 5. So 102, and then we want to multiply by 5. So that's now going to give us the 250. Can we get that final 6? Fortunately, we've got a 3 plus 4 minus 1. So 3 plus 4 minus 1 equals 6. 250 plus 6 for 256. A 4 large game to end the show on Monday. So we already know that we have the 100, 75, 50, 25. And then our two smalls are going to be 3 and 2. And we're aiming for 542. As Colin would say, numbers up. Now this one is a little tricky, especially if you're not used to the 4 large game, which, as I mentioned in the second video in this series, is of course one that you can practice because you are guaranteed to get these 4 large numbers. So any 4 large game, you know 4 of the 6, and so you can practice and you can learn lots of tricks involving those 4 numbers. But we don't necessarily need any of those fancy tricks here, but we are going to use 1 or 2, as you'll see. So I think the first step here that's really going to help is realizing that the 2 is going to be good. So what we're actually aiming for here is 271, and then we're going to multiply by that 2. So now it feels a little bit more achievable to try and get to 271. So how do we do that? Well, we've got a 3, so we could perhaps go up to 300 and try and subtract off. But what we want to do is 3 with the 75. So 3 times 75 is going to give us 225. And then we're going to add the 50 to get 275. And then, once you've written this out, you can see we've used U, and U. We've got 125 left, and we need to subtract off 4. So again, if you're comfortable with the 4 large games, you'll know this classic trick, 100 over 25 will give you the 4. So then we take away the 4 to get 271, and then we can go over here, multiply by the 2, which I'd save to the end, and that will give us the 542. Some pretty tough ones there across Monday. So let's see how Tuesday fares in comparison. We're going to start with a 1 large, which is going to be 100, and then we've got 2, 3, 9, 5, 6, and our target is 330. Love this one compared to what we've been doing on Monday. Straight in with 3 times the 100, going to get us up to 300. Now, can we make 30 with those remaining 4 numbers? If you know your times tables, 5 times 6 will give us the 30, and we're just going to add those 2 together. So this is how the contestants did it, how I did it as well on the show, from what I remember. Nice and simple compared to all of those horrible ones from Monday, so a good bit of relief. Round 2 on Tuesday, and we have 2 large, 75, 100, and those 4 smalls are going to be 6, 2, 5, 8, and our target is 130. Even better than the first one. 100, and then we just need a 30. Again, we've got the 6 and the 5. So it's almost identical to what we've just done. 6 times 5 gives us the 30, plus the 100, for a total of 130. Round 3, and we're back with one large, which is going to be the smallest, the 25. And our 5 smalls are going to be 4, 2, 5, 3. The last one is a 9, and we're looking for a big total of 929. A good place to start here is to try and get up to the 900s. So we have a big target and we only have the 25, but very conveniently it's right next to the 4. So what we want to do is 25 times 4, and then I'm expecting split multiplication. Haven't really used it yet today. So I'm going to add something onto that and then multiply by 9 is what I'm expecting. So that's going to give me 900. And then conveniently, we are now aiming for 929, which is a little bit more than 27, classic 3 times 9. And I do have a 3. So straight away, I'm thinking, add in the 3 there. So now I want to just take stock. We've used these ones. And so that adds on 27, so we get 927. Again, if you're new to split multiplication, you didn't watch those first two, the idea is I've not actually worked out 103 times 9. I did 100 times 9. Realize if I add a 3 before the multiplication, that's just the same as adding on 3 times 9, adding on the 27. So it will give you 103 times 9, which is 927, and then we've still got a 2 left, which is really nice. So we're just going to add that 2 on to get the total there of 929. So split multiplication here really is going to be your friend. 2 large game to finish on Tuesday, which is going to be 50 and 25. And then our 4 small to go with that, 4, 5, 10, and 8. And we're aiming for 559. Your time starts now. So this one is a classic case of it's easy once you see it, but I'm not sure spotting this particular route or trying this particular method would be high enough on your list that you would stumble across it inside 30 seconds. So when I write the solution up, you're going to think to yourself, how did I miss that? At least that's what I thought to myself. But I think the reason you might miss it is, again, the method to the solution is not an obvious one to try initially, and that is why at least I missed it inside the 30 seconds. So what we want to do is actually get just a little bit below the target and add on the 25 at the end. And sort of once you're now in that mindset, we're aiming to sort of something like 530, 540, and then adding on the 25. So what we've got is an 8 minus a 5 to give us 3. Then we're going to add the 50, so we get 53. And now we're going to multiply by the 10. So multiplying that by the 10 gives us 530. Now what's left? Well, we've used the 5 and the 8, then we use the 10, and we use the 50. So now we've got 25 and 4. As I said, it seems easy. You add the 25, you add the 4, and you'll get 559. But again, this, to me at least, is not an obvious method to try. It's not one of the first 2 or 3 that I would try here. So unfortunately, it means you're very likely to run out of time unless you can speed through really quickly. On to Wednesday, and for round 1, we're looking for a big target with a small large. So it's a 1 large game, which is 25, and then we have 7, 6, 4, 2, 8, and we're looking to make 969. Enjoy 30 seconds of countdown music. Now the trick to this one, I think, is to realize this is very close to a multiple of 25 and to really hone in on that particular idea. So if we use the 6, then we can say this is now 975, and then we're going to minus the 6 at the end. So now our new goal is to get 975, which of course is perfectly divisible by 25. So we want to do 25 times 39. That gives us 975. Then we subtract the 6 to get 969. So the problem is now, can we make 39 from, we've got a 7, we've got a 4, a 2, and an 8. 4 numbers to make 39. Once you've broken it down to this, now it's much easier to solve. So I think there are a few different ways to do it, but 4 times 8 will give you 32, and then you're going to add the 7 for the 39. So again, this is step 1, get the 39. Step 2, multiply through by the 25. And step 3, subtract the 6 at the end. Doing them in the reverse order, like I did, makes a lot of sense, but perhaps if you're trying from the beginning, it's not immediately obvious that this solution's going to work. So not the easiest, in my opinion. Wednesday round 2, another single large. This time it's the 50. And our 5 smalls are going to be 5, 2, 6, 9. The last one is a 10, and we're looking for 150. Like this one a lot. Now perhaps the most obvious way is the way the contestants did this. Both of them did the same thing. 5 minus 2 is 3, and you're going to multiply that by 50 to get 150. But we've also got a 10, so let's just do 6 plus 9 gives us 15, and then let's multiply that by 10 to get the 150. So in fact, we can get the answer from the first 3, or separately, we can use the last 3. So there are 2 solutions using the 6 numbers. Wednesday round 3 is a lovely 6 small problem. 1, 6, 2, 4, 7, 4, and we're trying to get 580. Numbers up. I think this one is one of those problems where some of us will look at it and spot the answer immediately, and the rest of us will never spot the answer in a million years. At least that's how it felt to me. So, if you jump in and sort of almost do the simplest or perhaps the obvious thing, which usually is a bad idea, but here it's going to help, and try and get a 10, right? So straight away we've got a 10. 6 plus 4 gives us the 10. And so now we've reduced the problem to, can we get the 58 using a 1, a 2, a 7, and a 4? So they're all pretty small numbers, but it does just about work out perfectly. Because the 7 and the 4 multiplied together are actually going to give us 28. Then we can add on the 1 to get 29, and now we multiply by the 2 to get the 58. And then 58 multiplied by 10 is going to give us then the total we were looking for, 580. A final one large game to end Wednesday. And we're coming in with 75. And then we got 1 alongside 8, 2, 9, 9. And our total this time we want is 787. Now this one is a little fiddly. We're going to actually end up using all of the numbers, and we're going to have to use a little bit of split multiplication. So we're going to try and get close, and that's going to mean 75 times 10. So let's use a 1 and a 9 there to give us a 10. So we've got 75, and then we're probably going to have to add something on. And we're going to multiply that by the 1 plus 9. Right, so step 1, 1 plus 9 gives us 10, then multiply by the 75. So that's given us 750. So let's write that out. So 750. Now we need an additional 37. And we've got a couple of big numbers left. We've got like an 8, a 2, and a 9. So the 2 here could help us out quite a bit. Because if we add the 2, then that's now an additional 2 multiplied by 10. So it's additional 20. So now we've got 770. And again, that's more thinking about 75 times 10 and doing split multiplication rather than immediately realizing 77 would help, right? No one knows that 77 is going to help. They've definitely done 75 times 10 and then used classic split multiplication methods. So we've got that. And then it just so happens, and this is kind of luck to be honest, rather than design, the 8 and the 9 give us that final 17. So plus 8 plus 9 gives us then the final total of 787. But I don't think that was by design, as I say. This was like, can I get close, get up to 750? Adding in the 8 or the 9 is going to add on too much. You're adding 80 or 90. So the 2 is the only sensible thing to use the split multiplication for. And then it just so happened the numbers that were left gave me what I needed. First round on Thursday, and we have one large, which is going to be 25. And then our 5 smalls will be 3, 5, 9, 7. The last one's going to be a 2, and we're looking for 244. Really nice one. We're going to do 25. We want a 10, so let's do a times a 5 and times a 2. And that's going to give us 250. So, or you can think of it as 5 times 2 is 10, multiplied by the 25. So we get up close, straight away, feels like a good thing to do. Can we get that 6 to take away? We've got a 3 and a 9, so 9 minus 3 gives you the 6. Take away the 6, and that will give you 244. For round 2 on Thursday, we're going to hand over to TV Tom. 5, 10, 4, 6, 9, and the big one is 75. And we're looking to work out 903.
903, numbers up.
This is horrible. This is horrible, but we've got there. So 75 times 10 will give you 750. Then you need to add a 4 to give you 754. Now you multiply this whole thing by 6.
What?
Which gives you 4524. And then you want to minus 9.
What?
To get 4515 and then divide by that last 5.
Oh, what? That's amazing. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
It turns out that that is the only possible solution to this problem. And to this day, I have no idea how I figured it out. I did need the extra time. I did use the ad break to get to that solution, but I honestly don't know how I got there. I think I just exhausted all possible methods and sort of got to a point of, oh, it ends in a 3. What if I multiply by 5 and go really big and see if I can use that in some way or another? And then, as you can kind of see in the solution, it sort of works once you've got yourself on that path. But the only reason I went down that path was quite literally because I tried everything else. Thursday round 3 continues the theme of one large. We're going to have 100, and our 5 smalls are 5, 4, 9, 6, 5, and we're looking for 167. A little tricky, this one. Not as bad as the last one, but a little tricky. So the 100 gets us up there, right? So really, we're trying to get 67 from these numbers. Now, to me, 67, it's very like 9 times 7. So I want to use 9, and I want to try and get a 7. That'll get me to 63, which means I'm going to need the 4 to get to 67. So kind of working it backwards, what it means is, can I use 5, 6, and 5 to get 7? That's almost like how I've reduced it in my head. Turns out you can, because 5 divided by 5 gives us 1. Then we add the 6, so that now gives us 7. Now we work forwards, so we multiply by 9. That gives us 63. Add the 4, gives us 67. And then, of course, we're going to add the 100 to get our target there of 167. Appropriately, yet another one large to finish Thursday's show. 75. And our 5 smalls are 6, 5, 10, 8. And our final number is another 8. And we're looking for 291. This one is, again, a little tricky because the 75 is actually going to be added rather than multiplied. So usually we're using the big number to try and get close, but because we have such large numbers here, turns out we're going to actually add the 75 at the end. So with that in mind, and using the 10 as well, let's see what we can do. So if we take away 75, because again, we're going to add it at the end, then that's going to take us down to, oh God, what, 216. So now we're trying to make 216 from these numbers. Now the 10 is going to be really helpful. So if I'm going to use the 10, I want to either get to 220, so 22 times 10 is to take away 4, or more helpfully, can I get to 210 and then add the 6? So with that in mind, we actually want to try and take away another 6 and try and get now to 210. So if I use the 10, I'm now looking for 21, and it just so happens that the 5, the 8, and the 8 give me the 21. So putting it all together, 5 plus 8 plus 8 gives me 21. Multiply that by 10 to get 210. Now we're down here. Now we add 6, 216. Now we add 75, 291. So 5, 8, 8, and the 10 have all been used to make 210. Add 6, add 75, 291. And so to Friday and my final appearance on the show. It just so happened, completely coincidentally, to be March the 14th, also known as Pi Day, 314 if you write your month first, and more recently now known as the International Day of Mathematics. So this was a great excuse to talk all things maths. In particular, I wore my Picasso shirt that I've been wearing throughout this video. And also, I got to show off some of my maths-themed tattoos, although Colin, the host, as you can see in this following clip, I think he wanted to see a little bit more than I was willing to reveal.
Well, listen, what a day for you to finish on, because it's Pi Day. Yeah. It's Pi Day. Yeah. And the one thing we haven't talked about, of course, is you are covered head to toe in maths-themed tattoos and more. So I can't believe I'm going to say this, but get your kid off, show me your pi tattoos. What have you got?
All right, this whole arm...
Oh, disappointing.
...is pi.
Oh, wow.
Basically, so for Pi Day, we have the symbol pi there, as represented by the Greek letter. Yeah. And this whole arm is just maths equations. Maths really is my life. Yeah. Maths really is my life.
A lovely set of rounds to end my stint on the show, starting with another one large, and that's going to be 75, 8. We've also got 5, 6, 8, 4, and our first target of the day is 388. Yet another lovely example of split multiplication. I've been banging this drum throughout this video series because it is that important and that helpful if you want to get good at countdown and those number rounds. So 75, we're going to probably add something and then multiply by 5. So 75 times 5 gets us close, that's 375. Good knowledge of 75 times table required, as we know. Now, we are 13 short, so we want to add something to that 75 to get up a little bit closer. So it turns out that here, we want to add like the smallest number we have, because these are all quite big numbers. So if we use the 4 and put that one in, then that's going to add on an extra 20, which might feel a little bit counterproductive. But if you don't add that, you can't get the 13 with the numbers that were left. Or at least I couldn't figure it out quickly enough. So I went up to 395, and now I'm trying to take away 7. So can I get a 7 from an 8, a 6, and an 8? You just about can. So 8 divided by 8 gives you the 1, and then you're going to add 6. That gives you 7. 395 minus the 7 is going to give you our first target of the day, 388. Getting in the spirit of the International Day of Maths, our contestant asked for 6 small in round 2, which is always a lot of fun. So we have 5, 7, 10, and then we've got 5, 2, 3, and a very big target of 964. Enjoy this one. Of course we have an impossible one for Pi Day, and this is exactly that round. So 964 isn't possible with this set of numbers, so instead we're actually going to aim for 965. So if you want to have another go, pause the video here and give yourself 30 seconds, see if you can get 965, and I'll go through the solution. So 965 I believe is the best we can get for this one, and the trick here is figuring out or using the fact that we have a 5. So this is clearly divisible by 5, which is why it's a good target to aim for once you know the original doesn't work. So if we divide by 5, this is not quite 200 5s. It's 200 times 5 gives you the 1,000, but then there's another 35, so that's another 7 5s. So this is going to actually be 5 times 193 to give us the target. So now, can we get 193 from here? So the way in, as usual, is to probably, I think, work backwards. So the 3 is going to help us get that additional 3 at the end. So can we now get 190? Well, that's a multiple of 10, so let's get rid of the 10. Can we get 19? 752, we can get 19. So now we've got our solution. So going forwards now with the solution, 7 times 2 gives you 14. Then we want to add on 5 to get 19. So we've used 7 and we've used 2 and 5. Now we've got the 19. Now we multiply by 10. So that gives us 190. And then we add on the 3 to get 193. So we've used the 10 and the 3. And now we know 5 times this, again, gives us our alternative target, the one that is achievable, of 965. One large for Friday round 3. Again, we're going to get a 75. Things popular this week. Alongside 5, 7, 9. And those last two are 10 and 8. And we're aiming for 729. Now this one is a cube number, so you could try and make 3 9s and see if you can do 9 times 9 times 9 to get your 729. But it's not how I did it. Classic, get up close, pitch and putt, take things away. So 75 times 10 takes us really close. That's 750. We need to take away 21, which is of course 3 times 7. So we've used that. We want the 7. Can we make a 3? Of course we can. 8 minus 5 gives us 3 times the 7 for 21. 750 minus the 21 gives you the total 729. A final lovely 6 small to wrap it all up nicely with the following. 10, 6, 4, 9 to 10. And we're going up high, 982. And just for fun, I'll give you the 30-second countdown. Now, it's not often you get to do this, but we're going to use good old 10 times 10 times 10. So we already have 2 of them, of course, 10 times 10. The third one comes from 6 plus 4. So if you, and you, and that gets us up to 1,000. Can we take away the 18? Of course we can. 9 times 2. 9 times 2 for 18. Take them away. Final answer, 982, to wrap up my 3-week stint on Countdown. So that's it, all 20 number rounds from week 3, which means we've now seen all 60 number rounds from my 3 weeks on Countdown. Thank you to the team for making me feel so welcome. Everyone was a genuine pleasure to work with, made my job as easy as possible. Huge thank you to Colin Murray and Susie Dent, the regular hosts, for making me a part of the family. Also, shout out to Rachel Riley for helping me out with some practice and some top tips before I went on. And of course, thank you to you, the audience, for tuning in. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll be back very soon. You can count on that.